The reason why the vast majority of the human race are idiots is because they simply cannot take themselves out of the equation when thinking. Because they've got no idea that thought can be independent from emotion and experience. Now, if, for instance, someone has an issue with someone for doing something, let's just say if you have been abused as a child, let's just say your father or your mother always used to raise their voice and scream at you, kind of like irrationally. That level of irrationality would have been indelibly embedded within your psyche, within every cell of your body. And so then, when you then grow up and become an adult and you meet people and you enter into situations whereby someone is raising their voice and shouting, instantly you feel the remnants of that trauma, and you recoil and you shrink, and then you project onto them your wicked mother or father, and then they're all these terrible people. Why? Because, well, what you remember about other people doing things like that caused terrible feelings within you and destabilized you, and it made you an emotional wreck. And so when you get a semblance of that, a simile, then you project all of that trauma back out there onto the world, don't you? And so all you're doing is mirroring. You had a reflection from your parents, and then you just mirror it straight back onto the world. So what I'm saying to you is, people, if you can grasp that at all, if you've ever looked into your own psychology and you've ever reasoned with why you feel this, why you feel so strong about that, why you have such a repulsion to this, that and the other, it's because you're recoiling inside. Because something has happened to you, and if you don't know what that something is, then my advice to you is investigate it. And this is why I'm an advocate for everyone having a proper therapist, a real good psychoanalysis, like a Jungian psychologist, which there are very, very few around. And so the reason why I'm always banging on about this is because I'm tired. I am sick and tired, because invariably you will never ever meet anyone who cannot take themselves out of the situation. And the only time you're ever going to get anyone who can take themselves out of the situation is a professional, is someone who has studied human psychology to such an extent that they have introspected through and through, and then they make certain realizations because they've caught themselves on a million times previously projecting and, you know, just mirroring their experience. You know, my sister, the one I always used to talk about, complete pain in the ass, she just mirrors everything. She mirrors her whole childhood without ever even have a remote notion of what she's doing. And when she sees this person, she sees that person, and she knows all about why they're doing that and all about why they're doing that. She's absolutely convinced that she knows the minds of these people all out there. But she's never ever stopped to consider, to think it's more rational that she could only even remotely know her mind, but she doesn't know her mind. All she's doing is acting on triggers. And I said to her, I said, you've got no idea about this person that you're fucking spitting venom at because you've just heard something that they've said on another table in the fucking pub garden. You've got no fucking idea. You're just making too many assumptions. Yeah, I've seen it all before, I know this and I know that. Really? No, it seems much more likely that all you're doing is projecting your trauma because you've heard one word or one phrase, or you've seen a certain attitude and action, and then that's triggered a whole array of stuff within. Doesn't that make sense? Yes, that's what you're all doing. That's what you are all doing. Unless you are very, very versed in your own psychology, you've studied for many years, and you've learned a lot of things about a lot of things, that's what you're doing. And so that's what makes me sick about the human being. Because that's all they're doing. They're just projecting their bullshit onto the world, and they're saying, the world's like that, and the world's like this, and, you know, I know this, and I know that, and all the things I know. No, you don't. You've had an experience, and your experience is your tiny fucking world. Your experience is your tiny minuscule world. It isn't the abstract out there that other people can see. You see, look, we all have a world which is in here, and so metaphysical terms, there's no abstract. But when you have a person with an interior world, and then you have another person with an interior world, and let's just say you've got 1,000 people with an interior world, well, they have gathered their interior worlds from something seemingly in the abstract, right? And so therefore then they blame it onto the world, and they say that that's this and that's that. That's how it works. It's a very complex thing. If any of you are really struggling to grasp what I'm saying now, you should listen to people like Bernardo Kastrup, or you should listen to Donald Hoffman. Donald Hoffman, he's on the circuit very frequently these days. Listen to what he's got to say about how we see the world. It isn't anything like any of you would think it is. And so why isn't it like that? The world's out there, the world's here, Aaron. You know, this is a blue and white shirt, Aaron. It's perception. It's just perception. What is this to little Gifty out there? What is this to Gifty out there? Does she even see the same colours? Does she even see the same patterns? Does she even recognise anything? Is she even cognizant of that? This is what I'm saying. The vast majority of people, I could stand before 100 people and I could have a conversation for an hour, and then I'd walk away, and then if I sent them a text, hey, by the way, could you describe the shirt I was wearing? And how much variance would there be? We don't live in the same world. We live in our world, people. We live in our world. So what I'm saying to you is this, and I'm hoping 99% of you fuck off right now. Just fuck off. I mean, from when I put on the last video fucking half an hour ago, then another fucking muppet wanker has fucked off because they can't stand the fucking light. They're just not looking for it. They just want to wallow in their own fucking fantasy. That's what 99+% of the world want to do. Well, I don't want to engage with twats like that. I want to engage with people who can embrace their pain and suffering and tell me that that was real to them. And they're not projecting it onto the whole fucking world, because they realise that that would just be projection. If they can come outside of themselves, you see, here's the thing. When people have had trauma, invariably they will either kill themselves, become drug addicts and kill themselves slowly, or they'll become awoken and then maybe enlightened. Those very few people, what they have the capability of doing is stepping outside of their body, because they've done it 1,000 times before. If you can imagine a child being abused physically, let's say sexually, they can't stand being in that body at that time while that bizarre thing is happening, so they will exit the body, and then they'll learn how to exit the body. It's like actually having an out-of-body experience. They won't feel anything anymore. They will just be in the abstract, and so then once they've known how to do that, then they can do it for the rest of their lives. And so I was never physically or sexually abused. Physically, a little bit. Nothing, you know, slap on the arse with a fucking a little wooden brush which used to sweep up the fucking arse in the fireplace. I remember that on one occasion, but I never had any physical abuse. It was mental abuse. It was mental abuse that I suffered. But when you have mental abuse, something happens to people, and by the time you are sick of this mental abuse, you're either gifted or you create avenues to exit your regular state of consciousness. And when you can exit your regular state of consciousness, then you see the world from this abstract way. You don't see it from your pain and suffering. You don't project that onto everything. You see it so clearly. You're like a fly on the wall observing everything, and you go, oh, he's doing this to her and she's doing that to him, and that's why all this is fucked up shit and this, that and the other. And then you can see things clear, you see. And then when you've been meditating for many years and you've had like psychedelic experiences and this, that and the other, then your consciousness will expand, and then you'll be able to do this more and more, and things will become clearer and clearer. But the vast majority of people, they cannot take themselves out of the equation. They cannot take their experience out of the equation. Now, experience can be a good thing if you are using your rational application in relation to your experience. If, for instance, you say, well, look, I was very cognizant of when I entered into that pub and I saw this fracas going on, and I wasn't inebriated at all, and I saw this so clearly, that so clear, and everything. So my experience tells me, to the best of my ability, that that is what happened. Okay, well, you can use that experience then. But if you've got experience which you bring with you from your childhood, and it's kind of like you was abused, you know, from 3 years old onwards, and then you walked into a bar, and then you saw the fight, and then, oh, this man, he was such a terrible person, he was abusing this person, that person was innocent, and hang on, you're making too many inferences, you're making vastly too many inferences. Just tell us what you saw. But people can't tell you just what they saw from a clear, abstract mind. They can only tell you what they saw from this clouded mind, filled up with fucked up shit that they can't step outside of, that they can't set aside. They can't think clearly. They've never learned how to think clearly. They don't think clearly any second of any day because they're filled with this shit, you see. So this is why I say you need to step outside of yourselves. But very few people have the ability to be able to do that. And I don't know whether it's something that you can learn or whether it's something that is gifted to you via certain circumstances. And what I can say about my spiritual enlightenment, it came out of trauma. It came out of trauma, such trauma that it shook my ego to the core, and then the ego just melted or just crumbled, and then whilst the ego was just in a pile of dust, something else turned on, and that something else was higher self, spirit, pure consciousness, cosmic consciousness. And then that's when I started to make, oh, this ego is just a fucked up piece of shit. And all my life, I was running on it. It was like fucking octane fuel, you know, it was fucking grey. Boom, 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 boom. I was firing on all 4 pistons. But then the engine just got too hot and it went into meltdown. And then when that happened, something else steps in. That thing that you really are. You see, it isn't this self, it's that thing. Spirit, cosmic consciousness, God, whatever you want to call it. And so, when you can come outside of this thing, like having an out-of-body experience, like having a near-death experience, like some sort of supernatural thing, where your consciousness leaves the body. And then your consciousness goes, hey, I'm pure consciousness. I'm not ego. I don't have ego. This doesn't have ego. This has ego. This is the thing that has ego and programs and creates fantasies and everything. This thing doesn't. This thing just observes in such clarity. So when you have a relationship with this, that's when you can do that. And that's when you'll know what I'm speaking about. How many of you can? How many of you would dare mention it? How many of you would categorically say, yes, I know exactly what you're saying? Very few. Very few. These are the people I'm looking for. I'm not interested in Muppets. I'm not interested in Muggles. I'm not interested in the automaton. You can all fuck off and die for all I care. I don't care. I'm looking for the others. Are there any out there?